Hello, Monroe School District. Today we are taking the fear out of Canvas by learning how to start using quizzes. Quizzes is such a great feature in Canvas, and there's a lot of possibilities with quizzes. One of them being that Canvas will grade the quiz for you, and so how great is that? But Canvas Quizzes also has an option for Mastery Pathways, which is my very favorite tool in all of Canvas. I can hardly wait to get to that one and show you that. But today we are going to start with part one. This will be like a three-part section on quizzes. We're going to start today with part one on just setting up some question banks and learning how to set up different types of questions within Canvas. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to click on my Sandbox course. And once we get out here, I'm going to start by just showing you what a Canvas quiz looks like so that you will have an opportunity to see it from that point of view. Tomorrow we'll learn how to create those quizzes, etc. So let's go ahead and this is my home landing page. As always, we have to go behind the scenes and we're going to step into modules. So modules is where we create the work. That is where we house all of the work that students are going to see. So if I wanted to create a quiz or I wanted to add a quiz, I'm going to find the module that I'm ready to do this with. So let's go ahead and let's head down to, let's go down to math. So I want to add a quiz into my math module. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to click on the plus sign and I am going to click on a quiz. I want to have a quiz instead of an assignment this time. Now, a couple of things happen here. I have already created or imported, as is the case, several quizzes that are already part of this class. And so when I go to create a new quiz, I can either create a new one and then follow the steps of adding a brand new quiz, if this is something that I'm already creating from scratch. Remember when you're doing this is the group assignment in Skyward. And so you're going to want, if you have a group set up for quizzes, you're going to want to make sure you click on that quizzes so that this quiz gets categorized the grade underneath the quizzes section in Skyward. If you're doing everything under assignments, you can just leave it at assignments, but just make sure that you're remembering that when you see group, this refers to the Skyward group, so that for grading purposes, when you go to move grades from Canvas into Skyward, it goes into the right category. The other option I have, I can create a brand new quiz, or I can add a quiz that's already been created. So if I was ready, I wanted to add my trig test, I can go ahead and click on that, and then I'm just going to add that item. So I've already created it in a quiz, and now it adds it underneath to the bottom part of my module. I really want to give them the trig quiz on Wednesday after Wednesday's work. So I'm going to add that in here. And I want to set it aside just a little bit. So I'm going to click over here. Oops, let me move my picture. I'm going to click over here and I am going to increase the indent so that it sets it off just a little bit. Notice that the icon changes as well. And so the icon for a quiz is going to be your little rocket ship. So anytime you see that, that icon means that this is a quiz or a test. So that is how you would add that into your module. Let's go ahead and I'm going to open this up so that we can take a look at it from behind the scenes. And so when I open it up as a teacher, it's going to tell me how my quiz has been set up. So notice that here's your instructions, and this is a time test. That's a feature that you can set up in Canvas. And if I scroll down a little bit, you will see there's a lot of information in here. These are all things that when I set up the quiz initially, I'm able to change all of this information. So when I open the quiz to take a peek at it, you can see how I have set this up. If I want to edit that, I don't really like the way it's set up. Maybe 120 minutes is too long. I can click on my edit button and I can come down here and notice this is where the time limit is. We'll go over this tomorrow. But if I wanted to change this to 110 minutes, I can change that to 110 minutes and then I'll save. And this is the back end. So this is the setup end for the quiz. And so now it has set up to 110 minutes. Now, notice that if I go into edit, just want to draw your attention to something. This is the setup part of the quiz. So this is all of the information about the quiz, but notice that you don't see any kind of answers or questions, anything in here. That's because this is, again, quizzes work a little differently in Canvas. These are the details of the quiz. You're going to pop over here to questions, and this is where you will see the questions that are associated with this quiz. And so as you look at the back end now, you can see, okay, these are the questions. So you probably have a question right now, which is, well, how do I get those questions into my quiz? And so that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to work a little bit on how you set up those questions within a quiz. So I'm going to come back over, and for our purposes today, normally we do our work behind the modules, so that's really important. Anything that's going to go out to students, you want to create that in modules. But in quizzes, you can create quiz banks, and these are where your questions are housed. So that's where we want to go today. So we're going to click on quizzes. And notice when I click on this, here's all the quizzes that are associated with this course. That's why when I went to create a new quiz, I saw these options get brought up. If I wanted to, I could create a new quiz here. Now, this would be a feature. I would recommend creating a quiz here if you want to have your quizzes created ahead of time and you haven't assigned them anywhere yet. This would be a great place to do that. If you are creating a quiz inside of a module, you're going to be ready to push that out to students. I would create it just like we did before inside the module. But what we're going to do today is I want to draw your attention to these three little dots over here. And we have question banks. Let me talk to you just a little bit about question banks. So within Canvas, you can set up all sorts of question banks. It's just, you can create different sections for different information. If you wanted to create, let's create one right now. Let's add a new question bank. Let's call this one state capitals. So we're studying those, so we want to have some questions available for state capitals. I'm going to type my title in there. I'm going to return. And as soon as I do that, now I have a new question bank set up. This is a place where you can house questions. And so let me kind of help you understand maybe a bit about how this can be useful. So as you are studying content with students, you may be studying a unit one day and you think, oh, that'd be a good question for a quiz. You can come out here to your question bank and you can add a couple of questions in here. Maybe the next day you come in and you add a couple of questions about the content that you studied on that day. And so it's a place where you can house different questions that you're going to be able to come back to and quickly import into a quiz anytime you want to. Now, let's say that you have been going through a course and it's a semester-long course and you have been adding quizzes along the way, and at the end you want to have a final, and on that final you want questions from all the different things you've studied the whole semester long. If you have question banks created, you can pull questions easily. Let's say there's 15 questions associated with this question bank. When you go to create your quiz and set it up, you can pull questions from this question bank into the quiz and say, I want 2 questions pulled from this question bank, and it will randomly pull 2 questions from that question bank. And so that's the beauty of creating your questions here. You can create questions right within a quiz, but they become housed in that quiz. And if you want to access those questions later, you're going to have to go back, open up a quiz, find the question, copy the question, and then put it someplace else. And so best practice when you're creating quizzes is to go to this question bank and start creating your questions within the question bank. So we're going to pause here in just a minute. I want to make sure you know how to get here. And when you open this up yourself, if you haven't created any questions before, this is going to be blank. So let's go back real quickly and let's review. So if I'm on my home page, in my home page, I want to come down to modules. Within modules, if I want to add a quiz or create a new quiz in that module, I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to add a quiz. and then I can go through the steps of adding a quiz. So that's how you would get your quiz into your module. If you already have a quiz created, you can easily bring that in. We're going to go over to quizzes now in our class navigation bar. I'm going to click on quizzes. And if I want to start creating a quiz ahead of time, I can start creating a quiz and I can house it here to be brought in later. Or this is just a place where I can go and see what my quizzes are that I've already created and maybe used throughout the class. But the most important reason to come out here is because this is where to access the question banks. I'm going to come over to these three little dots and I'm going to go to Manage Question Banks. When you open this up, you are going to, you're going to open it. Yours will probably be blank. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about what is something that you would give a quiz to a student on, some content that you're going to be coming up with soon. And this becomes really important because as we move through the next 3 or 4 sessions of quizzes, you're going to want to have a question bank ready to go. So I want you to just think about a topic that you're studying, something that you would want to put a quiz out to your students for, and then click on Add Question Bank, put the title in here, click Enter, and then you've created a question bank. Once you've created a question bank, then unpause your video and let's continue. Okay, so hopefully you have had luck creating a new title for your question bank. Notice that in the question banks, once questions start getting added, you're going to see how many questions were in there. So as you scroll down the different question banks, you will notice that. Notice also, look at these imported questions. Again, if you go out to the Canvas Commons and you're searching for quizzes, you can filter by quizzes. And you might find some quizzes that have already been pre-made that you really love, or maybe some question banks out there that have some good starting questions for you, or some questions that all you have to do is make a couple of quick adjustments to, and you have question banks already ready to go for in here, and you can easily import those into your class. So don't forget about the Commons tool. Okay, so here's the one down at the bottom that we created on state capitals. Notice that I have no questions in there. I want to add some questions, and that's the work we're going to do today. So I'm going to click on that title, and that will open up my question bank for me. And it gives me some options on the right-hand side. Right now, the biggest thing you're going to want to do is just start adding some questions. So let's go ahead and click on this Add a Question. And this brings up all sorts of options for you in terms of what kind of questions that you can create. So let's start. I'm going to start by putting a question in here. What is the state capital of Washington? Oh, well, forget my typos. Okay, and so now I have some different choices. I can create a multiple choice question. I can create a true false question, fill in the blank, etc. As you come on down, you're going to notice there's all sorts of questions, answers that kids can respond to. So let's start. First of all, I'm going to show you a fill in the blank. So let's say on this question, I want them to just know the answer. So fill in the blank. Now, if I scroll down, I could leave some information if I wanted to add a picture. Let's say on my question, I wanted to say, maybe I had a shape of a state. And so I put the shape of the state down here. And my question is, what state is this? And then they would see the picture of the state, and then they would give their answer. So this gives you some options for adding pictures. You can add a video into here. So if let's say you wanted to ask a question about the video. So listen to this clip, and then I want you to state whatever goes along with the video. But you can add all sorts of things. So don't be limited. There's an amazing things what you can add into here for questions for students to be able to answer. Okay, so then after I put my question in, it pops up these possible answers for me. So possible answer would be Olympia, because that is the correct answer. And so I'm going to go ahead and open this up. These are comments that if a student chooses this answer, so if they type in Olympia as their short answer, correct, that's what they'll see. I'm going to go ahead and click that in here. Let's say as a possible answer that I anticipate they might say Seattle. Then a comment they would get is incorrect. Seattle is the largest city, but Olympia is the capital. So thinking about what you would like students to see when they answer this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this, upload the question, and now I have this question as a question in my question bank. Okay, let's add another question. So I'm going to click on add a question, and now my question is, what is the capital city of Montana? Okay, and this time I don't want it to be a fill in the blank. I want that to be a multiple choice question. So I'm going to click on multiple choice, and the correct answer, Helena. And if I wanted to, I could leave a comment for them. Correct. I don't have to. It's just if I want them to see any kind of feedback, this is where I would give feedback to them. Another possible answer, they might, so Billings. So again, these are options because this is multiple choice. So they would click on Billings, and I would put incorrect. This is the largest city, etc. Okay, so I would keep on adding into there, and then as many possible answers as I want as options, I would continue to add that. If I want to have 5 or 6, I could add another answer right here. And again, when I'm done, I'm going to click the button, and now this question is added into this question bank. So what I would like for you to do today is I want you to create a question bank, and I want you to spend a serious amount of time adding questions. And when you go into add questions, choose the different options. Do you want a true false? What does that look like? Do you want to fill in the blank? What does that look like? Fill in multiple blanks. This is maybe the most important part of quizzes, is that you know how to write really good questions, and that you know how to adjust questions based on the content that you're looking for. Now, when you go to create a question, notice that already in this question bank, I have 2 types. I have a fill in the blank, and I have a multiple choice. I could also add into here, I could have a, if I wanted them to have a text question at the end, I just want them to fill in some text answers. I could do that. So I could have a quiz that has all sorts of different types of answers for different questions. It doesn't have to be just a multiple choice quiz, and that's the only options for that quiz. I can have whatever kind of questions I want to have within that quiz. So again, today I just want you to spend a little bit of time, please, going through here and adding questions to your question bank. If you want to add a couple of question banks and add some questions into each of the different ones, so you can see what does it look like to add a math question? What are the options for tools for a math question? So spend some time creating those, because by tomorrow's video, you're going to need to have some question banks so that we can demonstrate how to set up a quiz and add a question bank. And if you have multiple question banks in here, that's even better, because then I will demonstrate for you how to add questions from multiple question banks into a single quiz. So some good stuff coming. All right, so that's today's assignment. Is when you're finished here, go ahead and pause this and do that. I have one other assignment for you, and that has to do with if you're taking this class for credit, the next piece, if you would please put STEM number or taking the fear out of Canvas number 12 and number 13. If underneath this video, you're going to find a link, and this is a link to the Washington STEM. And there's a lot of information in here, but I just want to make you aware of what resources we have available in Washington State for STEM. And so if you want to take a look at some of these things, you can take a look through here. What I really want you to do, though, is to come over to the resources, and I want you to click on the resources. And this is worth exploring. There's a lot of really great information in here in terms of careers, some resources for how to even teach STEM. No matter what level you teach, there's going to be information in here. And a lot of this comes back to our state and resources available within our state. And so take a look through here. One thing I really want you to look at is under this general STEM resources, would you please pull up this fact sheet and take a look at different facts that are associated with STEM careers and how that relates to our students. So I think having some really good data on STEM is super important. On your working document for this class, if you would please go ahead and list several things, let's say 3 to 5 things that really stand out to you from looking at this website, whether it be from this facts or whether it be something else that you find under Career Pathways or some resources, but 3 to 5 really good pieces of information and why that information is meaningful to you or to your students, or how you could incorporate that into your class. So that's your STEM assignment for today and also for yesterday. So we're adding both of those together into one assignment. All right, so thank you so much for your time today, and have fun creating questions in your question bank and maybe creating several question banks. Tomorrow, we're going to add those into a quiz, and you're going to love it because quizzes are phenomenal in Canvas. All right, have a great rest of your day.